Can't sleep? Well, here are 5 surprising sources of caffeine that maybe you've never thought about before. Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Kim, and I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, and today we're going to go over 5 surprising sources of caffeine that maybe you haven't considered before that may be adding to some of your sleep problems. But before we dive into those 5 sources, let's just go over a basic review about caffeine and caffeine consumption. Now, the FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, generally recommends that you try not to consume more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. So what does that mean for easy translation? A standard cup of coffee usually has about 90 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. So basically they're saying try to keep it under 4 or 5 coffees a day if possible. Now, even though you feel that caffeine buzz or that energy for about an hour or so, caffeine can stay in your system for hours, okay? In 3 to 5 hours, only half of the caffeine that you've ingested gets out of your system. So caffeine can linger in your body for over half a day. So I generally recommend, if you are sensitive to caffeine, and if that's a reason that's keeping you up at night, you really want to try to limit your caffeine intake by early to mid-afternoon if possible, okay? So let's jump into it, because you're saying, Dr. Kim, duh, I don't drink coffee, I don't drink Coca-Cola late at night, so what are you talking about? Well, look, there are some sneaky sources of caffeine, maybe some hidden sources of caffeine that you haven't considered before, so let's go over some of the major ones. So number 1, non-Coca-Cola based sodas. Okay, so most people associate caffeinated sodas with Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, Pepsi, Pepsi Max, but there are non-Coca-Cola based sodas that contain caffeine. For example, Dr. Pepper. Head-to-head, Dr. Pepper, a can of Dr. Pepper has more caffeine than Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Okay? Even some orange sodas like Orange Sunkist has a small amount of caffeine. Mountain Dew has caffeine. All right? So even non-Coca-Cola based, non-cola based sodas will contain caffeine, so you have to check the label. All right? Surprising source number 2, chocolate. Okay? So caffeine naturally is found in cocoa beans, and cocoa beans are what makes chocolate. In general, the darker the chocolate, the more caffeine it'll contain. For example, a regular bar of Hershey's Special Dark Chocolate that you find at the checkout aisle anywhere that I love, one of those bars can contain up to 1/3 a cup of coffee's worth of caffeine, 1/3 of a cup of coffee. So if you're like me and you have a sweet tooth and you're munching on chocolate at night as a snack, that could be a source of caffeine that you didn't think about and you've taken for granted and might be keeping you up at night. Surprising source number 3, decaf coffee and certain teas, okay? So some teas and decaf coffee. Well, you're like, what the heck? It's decaf coffee. Decaf coffee means decaffeinated, no caffeine. Yes, it's called decaf coffee, but almost all decaf coffees contain some amount of caffeine, okay? Certain ones contain about 12 milligrams of caffeine per cup. That's 1/8 of a standard cup of coffee. So if you have a couple cups and you're sensitive to caffeine, it's like you drank 1/4 of a cup of coffee. So even decaf coffee contains some trace amounts of caffeine, okay? Most people think of tea and say, ooh, I'm gonna have chamomile tea and it's gonna help put me to sleep. That may be true for some people, but other people may be sensitive to the amount of caffeine in certain teas. Now, the ones in particular I want to highlight are matcha green teas and black teas. Okay, so matcha green tea and black teas tend to have a bit more caffeine than other types of teas. Some of them have almost as much as a standard cup of coffee. So be particular about what kind of teas you're drinking. And again, even later in the afternoon, early evening, late at night, you want to limit the amount of tea you're drinking if possible, unless you found one specifically that has either trace amounts or very low or no caffeine in it, okay? So moving on to surprising source number 4. chocolate and coffee containing food products. Okay, so look, we already went over, coffee, decaf coffee, we went over chocolate, but even the food products, because I think most people think about, drinking coffee as a source of caffeine, but you can eat sources of chocolate-based and coffee-based products that contain caffeine as well. So I'm talking about things even like protein bars, okay, Cliff bars that are coffee-based, okay? The macchiato flavors, the latte flavors, the mocha flavors contain, again, anywhere from 1/3 to even 2/3 cups of coffee's worth of caffeine. So if you're like, I'm on the go, I don't have time for dinner, or I have a sweet tooth, I'm gonna eat something healthy, and you eat one of these protein bars, that could be another source of caffeine. Coffee, ice cream, chocolate, ice cream. I love ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream? But even that can contain caffeine. So 4 ounces of Haagen-Dazs coffee flavored ice cream contains close to over 1/3 a cup's worth of coffee's caffeine content. So look, who eats 4 ounces of coffee ice cream? I eat a ton of it. So be aware of chocolate and coffee-based food products, even Oreos. Now, Oreos have a trace amount, but even Oreos technically have a trace amount of caffeine. Look at all these surprising sources. Now, the 5th and final surprising source are over-the-counter medications and supplements, okay? Look, there's so many supplements and over-the-counter meds, we don't have time to go over them, but some of the popular ones, headache medications like Excedrin, contain caffeine, okay? Pills like Midol, okay, that are used for menstrual cycle related bloating and fatigue, they contain caffeine because caffeine perks you up from fatigue. Caffeine is a water pill. It's kind of like a diuretic that makes you go pee more to lose some of that water to reduce bloating, but it contains caffeine. Excedrin, Midol, these things contain close to 2/3 of a cup of coffee's worth of caffeine per tablet or capsule. So be aware of that, okay? I got a headache, I take an Excedrin late at night, contains caffeine, all right? Even workout supplements, weight loss supplements that you see all over the pharmacies, groceries, gas stations, you gotta check the label. Some of them are, they're very forthcoming. They tell you explicitly this contains caffeine. Other ones aren't going to be so honest, and they're going to hide it. They're going to call it things like guarana. They're going to call it things like black tea extract, green tea extract. And those are ways of saying it doesn't have caffeine, but those are sources of caffeine and do contain caffeine. So they're kind of bending the rules of labeling and not really being honest with you. And my favorite, of course, is proprietary energy blend. Okay, I don't even know what that means. They love saying that stuff because it makes it sound cool and technologically advanced, I guess. But basically they're saying, we're not even going to tell you what's in this. And you have to contact the manufacturer to find out exactly what's in there, who actually spends the time to do that. But most of the time, it contains caffeine. Okay, so look, I know that was pretty quick, but that was just a general overview of some common sources of hidden or surprising caffeine that maybe you didn't think about, maybe you took for granted. But be careful about what you're putting in your body. Be aware of what you're eating, what you're drinking, and see, how many surprising sources of caffeine that maybe you're eating or drinking that you never thought about before or you took for granted, and see if that makes a difference in helping you get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer, okay? So again, check the labeling. We don't have time to go over everything, but those are some common ones I wanted to review today. Dr. Andrew Kim, hope you guys are doing well. Be safe, be happy, be well, everybody. Until next time.